I'm hopeful, regardless of the outcome. Boost up positive energy without one. Sorry about the jab, I'm on a holy field. I'm bearing fruit, but demons try to eat them like Yoshi meals. I piss them off the Batman like Falcone deals. Jungle full of predators, I know how Mowgli feels. So I got the fire, refuse to live in fear. I can spot suppliers, eating fresh shrubs. Call me private label, I be leaving breadcrumbs. I want all the smoke.
Welcome to episode 153 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, the only pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. And with that said, I'm going to bring on my co-host, which is normally my wife, but now it's my son. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, Dad. How are you?
I'm good. Everything's good up here at the Jungle Palace. Things are good, looking good. Hey, y'all, this episode brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp. Sorry, Dad. There's also a delay.
There went the timing. Yeah. Anyway, Hickory Ridge Soap, y'all. Don't forget about them. Heaven's Harvest, y'all. 10% off with promo code PERMA, PERMA. No need to remind you the state of the world we live in, just in time for the holidays. So, it do what it do, in the words of a not so wise ghetto philosopher. And if you'd like to tip a pimp, go check us out on the Fountain app, where you can listen to all your podcasts over there, even leave some comments that currently we can't access. And you can also drop a derivation of Bitcoin called Satoshis, whatever they are, SATs. So anyway, drop some SATs on some PIMPs if you'd like. And thanks everybody for coming in tonight. It's going to be a good show. So, yeah, I want to give a shout out to everybody that's out there. Let's see here. We got Fed Up Don, all in the soil. Almost said all in the family. Debbie, Sandy, I love you. Handyman, man, it's so far away, y'all. I can barely even read it. But thanks, everybody. And thanks, everybody, also that's listening to the audio version in the podcast app. Hey, look, I know yesterday's Wednesday bonus episode might have caught you flat-footed. And judging by some of the comments I got there, people were floored by it. And that was part one. Well, remember, it's the solstice. So a lot of weird things are going on right now. You feel a little bit of heaviness out there. Well, part two of that interview might just explain some of the reasons why. Hey, as always, if you're coming in, y'all hit the thumbs up. Tells them to go ahead and start immediately, suppressing us like they always do. All right, y'all. So farm news. I'm going to bat it back and forth to William here, but right off the bat, putting some compost extract on the top side of the mountain, and that ain't easy. So I was out there doing some of that today, did a whole lot of weed eating and basically recovering. You're going to hear William talk about that in the main part of the show today. But, when you have areas that are overgrown, nasty, thickety, you're going to have to put foot to butt. You can use animals to whatever extent, but you also need, there's no getting around your intervention and being a part of it. So there's no getting around to that. So I'm a little bit tuckered out, but I always love doing the show, son. You apparently are doing a fair piece of that yourself, huh?
Yeah, a lot of what I've just been doing is clearing out at the property, out at the abandoned permaculture demonstration site, as you can Google and stuff like that. But all I've been doing is clearing, which also backs up what we've said before, that instead of focusing on your water first on your new permaculture site and stuff like that, you should be focusing on access. Because if I didn't first work on access, then I can't get to anything to establish any kind of water or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like I can barely drive onto the property where I could whenever I first got there. Now I can drive all the way back down to the pond. That hasn't been revealed yet on YouTube, but I can get all the way down to the pond now.
Well, we'll cover more of that in the main episode because a lot of people have been asking how things are going with you. And we're going to have a good announcement today, something that he's doing on his own and where you can find him and what he's up to. So stay tuned for that. So as far as other things going on around here, I'm trying to make, because they don't currently make one that makes sense for us, and that is a mineral feeder. All right, so your mom basically got this set of minerals for sheep, and instead of it all being in one, it's 12 individual things. Well, you can make a 12 compartment thing out there, but if anybody knows the kind of terrain we live in, it's not exactly an easy thing to pull around. So I'm having to invent one or basically modify another one. So that's something I've been working on today too. And so anybody that's wondering also, we're probably going to do a video. We started doing some microgreens around here, and it was looking touch and go yesterday, but knowing what we know about soil science, in a nutshell, we did it per the directions. We've never done it before. So we're going to try to get some of this figured out. And per the directions that we were using, things became a little bit anaerobic. And the reason we know is because there's this fuzzy stuff on there, son. What does that usually mean when you see like a fuzzy thing that looks like cotton?
It was mold or mildew. You've gone anaerobic or you're about to. Or what are you guys growing as microgreens? Broccoli sprouts?
Yeah, she's got like broccoli sprouts and a number of other things, but this is why in permaculture, like the great Fukuoka teaches, you don't necessarily have to have hardcore specific disciplines. The reason I'm able to add, William didn't know I was going to ask that question, but he had the answer, because that's the beauty of permaculture, is that you can use a shotgun approach to a lot of things. If we see things like that, like he said, you immediately know that your medium or something in there is going anaerobic or is gone anaerobic. So the solution for that is, well, son, let me just go ahead and ask you, what would your solution be for such a thing?
The next watering probably applies some sort of compost extract or compost tea or something like that. But since it's gone anaerobic, maybe the watering is too high. That could be a consideration. But yeah, apply some compost tea or compost extract.
Since you can't really, you don't have the advantage of being able to actually look at it. The problem is that when you start these seeds, you basically take a cover and you stick it down directly on the seeds. I was already concerned because I'm like, man, it seems like it's going to create anaerobic conditions. Sure enough, she went and checked it after 2 days. And I said, I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead. We said, let's take the top off and give this thing some air, and we'll see what happens. And then if you can use a fan, well, it's only going to circulate even more air. And then lo and behold, the problem is about, I'd say 85% solved just by getting air in there. So that's going right back to another thing. When I'm making compost extract, folks, if you don't have the benefit of knowing what you're looking at under a microscope, if you can take whatever compost you have and stick it in something of a, let's call it like a bubbler or something like that, then, son, what can't the bad organisms deal with?
Oxygen. The bad guys can't deal with high temperatures and oxygen. So if you introduce oxygen or introduce high temperatures and then oxygen strategically, then you can get rid of most of the bad guys and weed seeds.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, in the compost pile, that's why you want to keep things aerobic. That's why you want some airflow. And so when you do have these mold problems, first thing you might want to look at in a situation like this is, how's your airflow? Is there any air exchange? Because honestly, that stuff can only exist in a oxygen deprived environment. So looks like the problem's pretty much solving itself. So we got a whole gang of microgreens up there. Put them on a shelf, just said, hey, let's go give it a shot. Plus, I think it's growing. Well, we got them in the lab. We basically we got we got it set up inside the lab. So the idea being is that so many people are saying, oh man, all these things are unfolding right now. How do I possibly grow any food? Well, go to my friend Eric Sider, go check out his YouTube channel, look at what he grew on a balcony. And then we're doing this microgreen thing because I got sweet potatoes growing down in the living room. And we got trees, some of which we got from the TexasBoys.com. We got them growing, some of them inside. And so I'm sitting here thinking, how much food could we actually produce with very little? Because honestly, I am absolutely floored, son, with how little a footprint you need for something like microgreens. And also with these microgreens, if you wanted to make a side business on this, I mean, good night. These people are charging a flipping fortune for just a little to-go container of microgreens, and they get it.
And they only take a week to grow. That's the
Yeah.
thing. They don't even have a whole bunch of time into it or anything like that.
You know what's really cool also is you have the benefit of it being, let's say it's touch and go on your ability to buy things or whatever. Well, you know what? This stuff is so nutrient dense. And that's one of the experiments we're doing also is that we got one flat. We haven't yet started it. I think we're going to do it tomorrow. And we got one flat with just the coconut core. That's the way most people do it. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what if we tried growing it in some compost? And because I'm thinking, okay, if that stuff is going to bioaccumulate in the actual stuff, I don't know if the compost is too rich. I don't know what I don't know. But folks, the point of it being here is that there is this entire constellation of ways you can grow food, whether it's growing mushrooms in a closet. Yes, you can do it. Or some of the people I know that are doing microgreens are basically taking a spare room in their house, some even in the basement. And not only are they handling all their own green needs, they're also getting it squared away at the farmer's market or honestly, there's a lot of businesses that would give, arm and a leg to have a good supply of microgreens and a lot of good information about how to go about doing that. So let's see here. What else happened today? Oh, I had a conversation with my best friend. Usually he's the kind of guy, it's your Uncle Dion, William. And for his birthday, which was the other day on the 15th, I said, look, happy birthday, man. I'm going to send you the best thing I ever gave you. So I sent him a link to a list of biohacks. Usually this is going to be the guy that poo-poos some of this stuff, but honestly, he's seriously looking into it. So I'm hoping some of this stuff. I mean, this is a guy that eats burgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, it's
or Domino's.
Or Domino's pizza, or which is about as nasty as it gets. But okay, I ain't gonna lie. I've been known to put down some Domino's in the back back in the day myself. But honestly, seeing him actually seriously give a serious consideration into grounding, which takes almost no effort at all, or into something like deep breathing. I sent him that Breathe with Sandy that I was talking about on YouTube. And seeing that it takes so little, getting morning light, just getting out there, maybe delaying your coffee intake for 90 minutes. Believe it or not, it's those little things that make a difference. And then at the end of the day, I've been doing a lot of these cold showers lately. And I ain't going to lie, y'all, it sucks every day. But I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at it, though. I mean, I'm in there and I'm mentally, I'm like, okay, I got to do this and you might be thinking, okay, what are the benefits? Well, it's giving your circulatory system something of a workout. But in addition to that, there's something mentally that goes on in your brain and it makes you better equipped somehow, at least for me, to deal. Look, like so many of you out there, I got a healthy dislike for nonsense. And, for some reason, man, I'm able to go to town. I can go to Asheville and not feel like all I want to do is just, beat them over the head, steal their money, and dump the bodies in the creek. So that's an improvement. So at the end of the day, these things are working out for me, but I'm glad it's becoming contagious. And it seems like a number of other people are doing the same thing. So, son, one more little announcement here before we get into the good news.
Well, hold on that biohacking, Dad. We still bring June outside to get her to calm down when she's being fussy and stuff, or even if she has gas pain, we still bring her outside like barefoot and all that, and she calms down most of the time.
Well, why don't you describe what you're doing there? Why don't you describe what you're doing there exactly? Because I don't know that everybody's going to know.
So when June, our baby, she's almost 2 months now. Whenever she starts fussing or acting up or anything like that, I just carry her, or Emily, my wife, carries her. Make sure we have like skin on skin contact. Usually it's just my cheek on her head. And then I get barefoot, or Emily gets barefoot, and we stand in the grass. And the baby just calms down. She starts calming down, starts going to sleep, especially if the sun's out. If the sun is out and she's not like facing directly into the sun, she just calms right down and starts going to sleep. Just calms down completely.
Folks, this stuff works. It really does work. And, and it really doesn't require much out of you. That's why I'm really staying on top of this stuff. Look, I know it's in time for the holidays for a lot of folks. And, give yourself your own gift. Just try a couple of these biohacks. Like I said, just get morning sun, Go out there, look at the sun. Really, it's not that difficult. Spend at least, there's some people say all you need is 8 minutes a day being barefoot. Get some grounded sheets, sleep on those. It makes all the difference in the world. And plus on Patreon, I've given you a lot of free options. Another thing that's really been helping out. Hey, y'all, not going to kid you. I did a video recently on some of this stuff. I don't know that I could even put on YouTube. So that's part of the beauty of Patreon. I mean, you could spend as little as $1 to get on there, but I use this other product, and I'm not going to say what it is right here in this forum, because like I said, they seem to want to demonetize us for everything. So I'm not going to mention it, but you get all these other products, and William knows too, like some of these products that you stick on the back of your phone and supposedly it stops the RF radiation. I've tested every bit of it. I got the instruments to test it all, and every last one of those so-called patches they got out there, it's all junk. Put an RF meter on it and it does not work. Well, I found something, some people go on about Orgonite. Well, look, y'all, if it works, it's not by any. Okay, so William's showing you a patch right there that supposedly does it.
That one works.
Son, you might as well rip it right off the phone. Yep. Go ahead and rip it right off the phone, bro, because it ain't working.
It's on the back of the computer I'm using too.
Yeah, well, you can take them all off, because the only thing that is working, and I know because I did a demonstration right there on Patreon where I used this device, and it's a round device. Like I said, I'm not going to say what it is, and this isn't some sleazy way to get $1 out of you over on Patreon. It's like I said, I'm not going to say it on here for the obvious reasons, but anyway, of all the things I've tested, outside of putting your phone on airplane mode, this thing, not only does it drop any kind of RF radiation, it dropped it lower to what the radiation was with it in just airplane mode. And it has this weird sort of phenomenon. And I don't completely understand it, but this weird phenomenon. Sorry, y'all, if you're hearing a bunch of this stuff, I don't know why it's popping up on the computer making a bunch of racket. I don't know if it's coming through, but
is it on your end?
Yeah, are you hearing it on yours?
Well, I'm hearing it on mine. Okay. Keep going. I'll work on my end.
Okay. Anyway, this Strand Farm, which by the way, you ought to check them out. Good friends, real good friends. James is my homeboy. Anyway, I wish I could tell y'all what it is, but they'd probably bust me off of here. But the point being is that of all the things I've tested that Orgonite. Didn't work. Checked out all the patches. They didn't work. Now, the other stuff that I talk about on Patreon, it was like $100 to get 2 of these things for your phone. So I got one for my phone and one of Michelle's. And like I said, I'm trying to test this stuff out. So I didn't go out and buy 50 of them. I mean, first of all, I can't afford it. And second of all, I'm like, okay, at least I'll find out if this stuff is, what they claim it is. And it was astonishing.
Website. I'd like, if you do go to the Patreon, go to the Patreon and click the link that's attached to that video. And if you go on their website, they have a bunch of different like products and applications and stuff like that. Like they have some interesting things that I like. I'll talk to you off air about it, but they have interesting things that I wonder if they would work and stuff like that. Like how far out is the field created? You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, but I'll put it this way. This thing was so effective that I had the meter on. I've been testing this thing 30 ways to Sunday. I'll put the RF meter on one side, put my phone next to it, and then put this device on the other side of my phone, not even between, and it still blocks all the RF radiation. So, this thing is really, really something else. But as far as the field that it goes, I do not know. But the same guy also makes bracelets and stuff like that, and he makes some pretty heavy claims over it. And what really concerned me is that they didn't exactly have a contact page on there, but I'm like, okay, I got to try this stuff out. Anyway, man, forget about it, man. They demonetized me. Go ahead. It was Shungite is the name of this material. Shungite is what am I worried about, dude? I mean, they've been dogging me every week anyway. I can't even believe
I'd be careful. I'd be careful if you go to the exact website that we linked. Don't go through like an Etsy store or anything like that. Go to, I don't even know the name of it, but Yeah, I can find out the name of it real quick if you want.
No, I know the name. No, it was Verified Shungite, SHUNGITE, verifiedshungite.com. And it worked. I mean, it absolutely worked. And I told you before about how you can put it in airplane mode, but my RF meter, I can set it to catch whenever there's like errant signals going out. And even in airplane mode, y'all, it's safe. And then it's until it's not. So just kind of do what you can with that information right there. But yeah, that's what it was. They sell bracelets. They sell these pendants. This stuff ain't cheap. There's a whole lot of knockoffs on the market out there claiming that they do this stuff. And frankly, I mean, good night, man. I was so disheartened by all the people making these claims that these certain things work. And then when I come across something that actually did, I'm like, oh, fantastic. I've heard, some people are saying this stuff is radioactive. Well, yeah. Do you think they're not looking for that through the postal system? I'm going to say that it's probably not the case. I don't have a Geiger counter, although I need to get one because I've been wanting one anyway, because I was thinking, I go through the meat aisle, particularly the fish aisle. And, there was a guy a while back went through the fish aisle and he had a Geiger counter. And that thing was jumping off the chain from all the salmon and everything else that was out there. So from every ocean fish, I mean, that's, Fukushima, the gift that keeps on giving. Those things were pegging. But anyway, I digress. The point being in all of this is that seems like that's a legit solution. At least on my instruments, that stuff was knocking it out of the park. So I'm going to see about getting either a necklace or some bracelets and, can't hurt. I know that. All right, y'all. So we're going to jump. What's that?
Dad's going to be blinging on the Pimp Cat.
That's the thing is that I hate jewelry. I hate anything touching my body. I mean, anything. I don't wear a wedding ring. And then for years I didn't wear one anyway, because when you do electric work, I mean, I don't wear anything that's on my body. And for me, even in the Army, to wear dog tags, I never wore them. I'd put them in my pocket, in my back pocket, which you were allowed to do as a paratrooper because, when you jump out of a plane, you put them in your loop in your back pocket anyway, for obvious reasons. You're jumping out of a doggone airplane. So I would never put dog tags on unless I had to. I hate anything touching my body. So for me to get used to a bracelet or a necklace or anything like it is it's going to be a big deal. So I'm going to drive on anyway. All right. Before we get into just the good news, remember we got 10% off in addition to the 20 they currently got going at Redemption Shield. Remember, I reached out to all these different companies out there asking me to let me test their stuff. Redemption Shield is the only one that gave the okay. That's how. And then here's the best part. When I tested everything with the same meters I was telling you about, it actually did what they say it does. I've reached out to some of these highfalutin places that deal in this sort of thing, and I've reached out and said, hey, bought your product. It ain't working. What you going to do about it? And they ghost you. They don't do anything. Anyway, over at Redemption Shield, that's why I reached out to them when I knew their stuff worked. I was like, all right. And plus, I'm sleeping like $1 million, at least with that fitted sheet on the bottom. Y'all, I got to say, I mean, sleeping like $1 million being grounded and to a certain extent shielded. Anyway, Redemption Shield, use promo code PERMA, get you 10% off in addition to the current 20, all the way through the end of the year, as I understand it. All right, so check this out. I got, back to this biohacking, son. One of the good news articles I have right now is we have a bunch of different frequencies out there. They're called, and I'm probably going to butcher the name of it, but they're called solfeggio frequencies. And it's, 174 hertz, 285, 396, 417, blah, 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 all the way up. There's a bunch of them out there. And of course, as it goes, none of the frequencies you hear on the radio are ever in any of these healing frequencies. In fact, 9 times out of 10, these things are going to be set to 440 hertz instead of the 444 that was done prior to 1939. Thank Goebbels and Hitler for that one. And then, all of a sudden we got a world war. But the point being is I was like, man, what are all the benefits out there when you listen to some of this music in certain hertz? And you can find it, like I talked about it last weekend. There are people out there that have these healing frequencies. And if you think they don't work, be in a bad mood and listen to them. Or better still, I bought this one that basically puts you to sleep, and it works like nothing else you've ever seen before. Yeah. So,
Puts the baby to sleep.
did you, well, son, are you using that mixtape I made, or is that the one with the harp?
The harp. You sent a few of them there's the one with the harp that she listens to that puts her to sleep. And then there's a couple more, but the harp one works the best for putting the baby to sleep for sure.
Yeah, the stuff absolutely works. So, I mean, there's going to be the so-called experts out there that say, oh, there's no difference. Well, if there's no difference, then why on earth did they change it? So anyway, just a brief example of this. Some of the healing frequencies out there, like 174 hertz, known as the healing frequency, has been around and is supposed to have a potent effect on the physical body when compared to other frequencies. 285 is supposed to restore your tissue. 396. I mean, now it says, can aid in the elimination of guilt, subconscious fear, negative beliefs, and grief and stuff like that. I always wondered, people say, well, that was a big thing back in the 90s. All the girls would say, oh, I'm suffering from grief, or I'm suffering from guilt. And I would be like, well, are you guilty? I mean, okay, maybe you should be if you're guilty. I don't know.
On the face of it, it sounds like some sort of demonic oppression. I wonder if this is just based off what you've said so far, if demons can't stand to be around certain frequencies.
Well, I wonder that, the thing is that it was theorized that King David tuned his harp to 444, and maybe that's why, Saul, in fact, the guy that does that harp music, and I wish I could give him attribution here, but the guy that does that harp music, he claims that, he feels pretty confident about the fact that he found that same frequency that King David used, which was 444 and 528. Sure, there's a number of others out there anyway, but so it goes all the way down the list. I mean, some are good at healing trauma. In fact, check out Mike Adams. He nearly cut off his finger, and with tuning forks, not only did he, grow everything back, he said the nerve and the feeling in that finger that he nearly cut off is better than it was before he did it, and he used tuning forks to do it. So, take what you can with that information. Look, just because MD does not mean medical deity, y'all. Think of all the MDs out there that have signed on to, I'll just leave it right there. But I'll say it this way. The latest pestilence, the manufactured pestilence that went on, how many MDs just kind of mindlessly walked into that minefield? So anyway, I truly believe there's a whole lot of awesome Chinese medicine, Korean medicine, a lot of Eastern medicine out there that is far superior to anything that we have. And believe it or not, frequencies play a big role in a lot of that. All right, the other good news, Canadians Grassroots Group releases historic report on investigation in the Trudeau regime's authoritarian response to I got to say this word differently, response to the sweet and sour sniffles. And basically, people up there.
Flag too, Dad. That's going to get you flagged too.
Sweet and sour sniffles?
Yeah.
Hey, you never know, man. At this point, why not? Hit me with your best shot, man. They've been doing it every single week, no matter how benign I make it. So I'm not even going to start playing games. But the point is that a whole lot of Canadians are some of the most long-suffering people I know. Wonderful, sweet temperament. Only in my life, and I've worked around and been around a whole lot of Canadians, always wonderful, sweet-natured people. Only ever met one Canadian I didn't like. His name was Al, and he had issues. But outside of that, man, I've never met a Canadian I didn't like. And if these people are starting to lose their mind up there, you should start to ask yourself the questions why. If these people are raising up saying, I've had enough, because Canadians are about the easygoingest people you're ever going to meet. So, hopefully things jump off up there, and maybe they have something of a peaceful revolution of sorts. All right, so the third and final good news headline, and this is going to go without saying to a lot of you out there, natural healing, a warming apple cider vinegar recipe that boosts your immune health. Now, They call it something different, but basically it's fire cider. So basically it's apple cider vinegar, horseradish, onion, garlic, ginger slices, ginseng, or as they say up here in the mountains, sang, chili peppers, and honey to taste. So basically toss all that in a jug, switch it up, and then, I guess that's going to help also with the sweet and sour sniffles as well. And all the other cruddy stuff that's rolling around.
It says add honey to taste. What? Who flavor ain't even a concern if you're adding all those ingredients together. Chili peppers, ginger, horseradish, honey isn't doing anything.
Well, ginger's actually, well, it sounds like this is a powerful mix. It sounds like that fire cider your mom makes.
It ain't doing anything for flavor, I should say.
Well, that's something good to do. I mean, if you got all this apple cider vinegar, when you go and you collect all the apples we do, we got cores and you got the skins and you got all these things you got to do something with. So, you know what? Hey, you probably got a whole lot of extra vinegar if you've made some. And right now, this could be a really good way to do that. It might be a really good boost to a whole lot of immune systems out there, especially with one of the next things they try to come up with. So keep that in mind. All right. So with that said, y'all, we're going to go to my man, Eric Cider, and then we'll be back with the main topic with William.
Hey, Eric Cider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, inspired action. Inspired action is effortless and energizing. When you're engaged in it, everything else disappears. You drop into a flow state where you lose all sense of time. Inspiration is fleeting, so when you feel it, you must act on it immediately. Children run 100% on inspired action until school and society beat it out of them. But one of the best ways to recreate that experience is engaging in those activities you loved as a child. It is also a way to slow down aging. If you find yourself struggling to complete a task, particularly one you deem important, it is almost certainly because it is not inspired action. One of the surefire ways to not succeed is to put conditions on that success that don't inspire action. There is no singular path towards success. One of the best ways to avoid burnout is to focus only on the tasks you enjoy and outsource the rest. Wasting 2 or 3 days struggling through your taxes is not inspired action. Your time would be better spent hiring an accountant and focusing on tasks you enjoy or self-care and recovery. Some activities to encourage inspiration are meditation, being out in nature, exercise, a hot shower, basically anything that turns off your brain and connects you to source. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Cider. And if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericcider.com.
That's my dog. Yeah, man, I'm right there with him on that. But there's so many of us, man. A lot of us, and I've been there myself, where you find yourself working at this 9 to 5 for whatever reason, this and that and this. And, you get to that point where you're playing hide and seek for $2,000 a week, or, you get this mentality, this idea where they make $1, I make a dime. That's why I pee on company time. You develop these bad attitudes when you wind up doing uninspired work. And I know we're all striving to get to the place where we all do nothing but inspired work. So for those of you that are, in the trenches trying to figure it out, I applaud you. And those of you that are kind of feeling, you are where you are, well, it's those little things where, like Eric mentioned a bit ago, I remember, in fact, one of the last jobs I ever worked on before I retired was basically, I don't take break with anybody. Not lunch break, not any break. Every single time I'd get away and I would do deep breathing. And that would just kind of center me again, so I wouldn't wrap one of these chumps in the head with a tack hammer or something like that. Anyway, before we get into William and the main event here, EMP Shield, y'all, $50 off with promo code PERMA. I'm going to leave it right there because you know what kind of world we got going right now. Things are crazy. Things are silly. Things are somewhat stupid. But got a little holiday gift for all of y'all out there. My son, William, basically, he and his wife and my grandbaby, they did him out back to Texas, and they're out there. And a lot of people are reaching out wondering, update, like, what are you up to? What are you doing now? Son, drop it. It's on your end. Go ahead and tell them what's up.
All right. So since getting down here, there have been a ton of developments. One of the main things that happened was I did a consultation for Bear and all them out there. and they gave me a truck, so that's awesome. So now I have an F-350 to do all of a 2001 F-350 to do all the moving around and work I need to get done. But down here, since going to the permaculture, the abandoned permaculture demonstration site, I have done basically nothing but clearing and securing. The gate is back up, the patches in the fence are fixed. And then also I can see what's going on and stuff like that. I have most of the swales cleared up in the front of the property. The area around the buildings and the shipping container, all that stuff is cleared around. Stuff like that. I've been doing all of that.
Hey, let me stop you for a minute, because you're kind of telling the story in the mid thing. You got to kind of set the stage a little more. A lot of people may not even know what you're talking about. You gotta kind of set the stage.
Well,
so yeah.
So this property was actually the property that we started Permapastures Farm on. That's where we started recording and stuff like that. It's not where we started homesteading. It's just where we started recording for YouTube. And then we stayed there for a couple of years, and then we moved on to North Carolina. And now 4.5 years later, me and Emily are moving back to that property. That abandoned permaculture demonstration site. And we have, there's a pond out there. There's a swale where we planted a bunch of fruit trees. Some, like, if I remember correctly, some rare Southern apple varieties as well, right?
Yeah, we had, there's a couple of them out there, but by and large, they're just varieties that we knew would do well down there.
Right. And then there's a garden, there's a space where a greenhouse used to be, stuff like that. And we had animals running in between the swales and through the back of the property and all that. So me and Emily are now back, and it's been completely abandoned since then. We're going to fix it up and bring it back into production. Now, as far as the swales and the trees and all that stuff goes, that's already, like, none of that has failed. Everything has just gotten bigger and has grown more and stuff like that. In fact, I need to get rid of some shade in some of the swales, because the mimosas, which are the nitrogen fixers that we have planted there, are now taking the stage of the overstory. And now the overstory is a little too connected, too close together when there's leaves on and stuff like that. So I'm gonna have to thin those out once the time comes for that. But I'm attacking this property the same way I would the same way I tell people during consultations and stuff. The first thing I worked on was the food. The food is squared away. I didn't show any of that on YouTube or anything like that, because I just don't want to talk about that yet on YouTube. But the second thing we're getting squared away is the access. For me to do anything on the property, I first have to create access on the property. Now, if you look at your permaculture design manual or your PDC and all that stuff, they tell you to work on water first. Well, working on water doesn't make much sense if I can't get to the water, or if I can't get to the place where I have to create water capturing or diverting or anything like that. So the first thing I'm working on is access. When I got there, I found out that some meth heads up the road, now I know where they live, and Dad, you won't be surprised by this. They live in the same place where Knocker Get Shot used to live. But it's a father and son team that goes around on four-wheelers robbing people. They just go, like, steal stuff from people's properties. So there's a game camera out there now. The gate is up. The fences are fixed. Everything is completely locked up. They had apparently hit that property before, stole everything. They stole the air conditioning units out of buildings. They stole a whole lot of stuff. All of the gates that they could steal, they stole. Yeah, so that's fine. But they left some chicken
composting toilets.
They stole composting toilets. They stole. What's even nastier is they stole other people's composting toilets.
Wow.
It's not like they stole brand new composting toilets. And they left the porcelain toilets that are in the shipping container. They left those.
Wow.
So that didn't make any sense. But yeah, right now I'm clearing. Still kind of clearing. I need to decide what I'm going to do with the buildings on that property. So there's that singular project that I'm doing right now. Another project is my father-in-law's place, where we're putting up fence so we can get cows and sheep and all that rotating. I'm going to pick up pigs from TD and his kids in, I believe, 8 weeks or so. As soon as the piglets are born and weaned, then we're going to go ahead and go pick those guys up. And then we'll have pigs out there. And that's like a 25 acre farm that already has animals on it. He has goats and sheep, or one sheep. The reason the goats are still there and not eradicated is because they worm themselves with all the black walnuts around there. So they're pretty well tamed. They're pretty well taken care of. They're pretty low maintenance, the most low maintenance goats I've ever seen. And then he also has some miniature Herefords out there and some chickens. The funny thing about the chickens is that those are the same chickens that we gave him before we left for North Carolina. You remember those guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still alive and they're still laying about 1 or 2 eggs a week, but they're still around. So we're going to get some more chickens there. And then the third project I have is with my brother-in-law, Adam, who lives he lives in DeKalb, but he has a 6,000 acre farm over in Idabel, Oklahoma. Now, it's the complete opposite type of farming. It's mining. I'm not even going to kid you. It's just straight up mining there. But what's cool about it is that when he takes over the farm, he's completely open to the idea of introducing proper regenerative, systems and stuff like that. Like he wants to, like him and his father, and his not father, his granddad. That's who runs the farm. Neither one of them feel good about when they spray. It's just that they don't know any other alternatives. Now, they don't spray or anything like that very often because they make more money from silage than they do corn. So worst case scenario, worst crop ever, they can still cut it and make silage. So they're not too concerned about spraying. It's just they know that, and I think this is maybe a common factor with a lot of farmers. They know what they're doing isn't viable. Like it's not going to be, they can't keep doing this forever, but they just don't know any other options. And they don't really know how to get out of this cycle that they're in. Because here's the thing is that if they show the state that basically they have to keep showing the state that this field is in production, which means that they have to keep tilling it over and over and over again. So if they were to put a cover crop out there, not till, and then just seed drill and stuff like that, to the state, that looks like a fallow field. That field doesn't look like it's in production, depending on what time of season they come in and stuff. So there's an issue there. And then they're not covered by insurance and all that stuff. So my goal there is to learn the system, figure out what I can, learn where they're having issues, and then fix those issues, gain trust with his granddad, because, he's going to be the hardest one to convince. Gain trust with his granddad, showing that I can solve problems, that these methods do work and stuff like that, and then build out from there. So those are the three projects I'm working on. My father-in-law's 20 to 25 acre farm, the permaculture demonstration site that's eventually going to be turned into a training center, and the 6,000 acre farm that farms nothing but corn. That's what I'm doing here.
Well, apparently you got a YouTube channel kicking now, right?
Yep. That started Monday. If you look up the Permaculture Consultant, I'm documenting everything I'm doing there. The first episode was just like an update on the property, giving you guys a tour of the abandoned property. The second episode, which came out Wednesday, was showing some clearing of the property. And then my third episode, which will come out tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Central Time, is a tour of what I'm doing on my brother-in-law's property. And then I have more footage coming out with like an updated clearing video. I have a tour of my father-in-law's property coming out here soon. I've been showing bits and pieces of it on social media. You can find me on all of the social media platforms. So it's all under the Permaculture Consultant. My email is under the Permaculture Consultant if you need any permaculture consultations or anything like that. I'm here in East Texas, so I have a wider range than I did before, or a different range than I did before. I know a lot of people hit me up from Arkansas and Texas and Oklahoma and stuff like that. So now I'm here, but I will go to whatever location you're at, depending. So don't let the distance stop you from emailing me at the permacultureconsultant@gmail.com.
Well, I mean, son, with all that you have going right now, you know, the thing that's striking in that you're doing this is that so many people are new to this space. Record numbers are getting into permaculture, farming. I mean, you name it, throughout the entire continuum, there's somebody there. But a lot of people are finding themselves in a place where it's grown up with thickets. That's why we've covered so much of it before. And now they're going to have the benefit of being able to watch you take a property that, first of all, the backbone was put in. Okay. We did all that. We showed that these systems work because we installed everything. We put in the swales. The swale does a whole lot of wonderful things for your aquifer, also does a lot for tree growing systems. And all those times where you're in extreme drought in Texas, well, when everybody else's stuff is dying, ours wasn't, and without management. So obviously
this past year was an extreme drought. This past summer was. Adam's granddad, who's lived here his entire life, said that was the hottest summer he's ever experienced. And everything on those swales survived. Those trees survived somehow.
Well, judging by the video I watched of it, it sounds like they thrived. I mean, it wasn't just, because any bit of rainfall is being captured down in there. So, I mean, these systems become way more robust. And, you know, it's just living proof that this stuff absolutely, positively does work. So the beauty about what you're doing there, son, is for all these people that are thinking about, okay, you know, I have this patch of land that might be available to me, and it's overgrown, it's got thorns, thickets, all this other stuff. I mean, the benefit of watching your channel and seeing you take a place and bring it back into production is going to be a massive blessing to a lot of people out there that are wondering, what do I do with all this thorn thickety nonsense? So what else do you plan on covering over there?
Well, I mean, the part of that is what I'm answering in this, and I answer it more in a video that's coming out. Part of the reason I'm using a scythe is because the weed eater was in the shop and the mower's in the shop. But the main reason is because there are a lot of thorn species over there. There are just a lot of thorns and thickets. And if I just chop them down with a weed eater, the thorns and thickets are still there. So I'm using a scythe so I can cut it and pile it up at the same time, make a bunch of small little piles, and then just burn those piles enough to get rid of the pile and the thorns, but not too bad where I'm making like pottery underneath, because it's all heavy clay out there. You can also use, like, just cut a path for you to run a fence, and you can also use pigs and sheep and cows or whatever you might have. You can also use like a mower or a tractor with a PTO driven mower deck on the back, or a brush cutter or anything like that. You can use those things. The issue with using those things, especially when you're not renting them and it's like a family member's or yours, is that you don't know what's underneath the brush. Now, the meth heads that came and robbed the place, they left stuff strewn everywhere. So I don't know what hoses are in the brush. I don't know what metal fencing or wires may be in the brush or anything like that. And that's another benefit of a scythe, is that it's faster than a weed eater, I think, despite what we showed on that video. If you're trying to, the video that we all did whenever me and mom are racing with the weed eater and the scythe, I think it is faster because you're able to clear more at like per swing, and you're able to stack it up at the end of the day as well. So that's the method I'm using. Also, if you don't have like the benefit of being, my age or anything like that, then it might make more sense to go with a weed eater or a mower or something. Find the best you can. I mean, this method is working very, very well from what I'm trying to do. And it's not like I'm able to cut around the trees and stuff. There's no like accidental overswing or accidental, like the string comes out on the weed eater. There's none of that. I'm not girdling any trees. I'm being able to be very precise and quick with the scythe. The only limit really is my gas tank. So, and the amount of time that I can spend there per day and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Sorry, I had myself muted here. The beauty about all of this is that it's going to be a real inspiration for those that are thinking about getting into this space. Right now, the cost of everything is going through the roof, and no likelihood that it's ever going to go down anytime soon. And people are saying, "Hey, I gotta grow some food. I gotta figure out how to do that." So, son, I'm really looking forward to see what you're going to do and how many different ways you can do it. Once again, tell everybody where to find you, and then we're going to go into the Q&A section.
You can find me on any social media platform, The Permaculture Consultant. You can find me on YouTube, The Permaculture Consultant, and you can email me at thepermacultureconsultant@gmail.com or thepermacultureconsultant@protonmail.me. So,
all right, when we get back, William's going to stick around for the Q&A, and before that, we're going to go straight to my man, Chef Keith Snow.
Hey, it's Chef Keith Snow with your Pimpcast tip of the day. This time, reverse seared rib roast. Please don't mess up the $100 chunk of beef. Many of you will be cooking a rib roast this coming Christmas. Not too many days away, folks. Usually we have one too, but this year we've decided to have a tri-tip, mainly because I refuse to pay north of $100 for a roast. The reverse sear, which can be done ahead of time, allows you to set the internal temperature to exactly what you want, which eliminates guesswork. Then you blast it in a hot oven to sear the outside and have it ready for the table. Here's what you do. First off, I suggest an oven temperature of 225 degrees, and you must use a probe thermometer. Trust me on this. I use a predictive cooking thermometer from a company called Combustion Inc. They sell it at combustioninc.com and I believe also on Amazon. But other digital probe thermometers will work too. Place the meat on a rack, insert the thermometer into the meat, being careful not to hit any bones. Place into the 225-degree oven and wait. The thermometer will tell you when the desired temperature has been reached. I suggest removing the meat, wrapping it in several layers of heavy-duty foil, and placing it in a small cooler to keep warm. Then, when you're ready to finish it later, you can just turn the oven up to 475, put it in there, and cook about 10 to 15 minutes to achieve a beautiful exterior. Nothing is worse than an overcooked or undercooked prime rib roast, and this is one of the most challenging meats for newbies to master. The usual result is a very well done exterior and a bloody interior, not the even and perfect 130-degree medium rare you want to achieve. The reverse sear will help you. Trust me on this. Head over to harvesteating.com and try some of my spices or coffee. And please subscribe to my podcast as well. Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year to all.
Bam. All right, Chef Keith Snow. That's what I'm talking about. And man, he's just cold-blooded. Man, prime rib. Whew. Last time I had some prime rib, man, I was up in Kentucky at the Kentucky Sustainable Living Festival. And man, they had some great prime rib. I tell you what, good night, man. Speaking of food, man, your mom is tripping, dude. There ain't but two of us up in here, and she's got so many cookies down there. She could feed an entire. I'm like, who are you making them for, man? We need to drop these off at Jake down at the farm store. Let him eat them up, dude. All them Hooter Banners are like, well, yeah, she took a handful of them, but for the most part, I mean, I'm like, dude, she'll make all these cookies. And I'm like, I got this. I cannot waste food. Nothing I hate more than wasting food. And I'm like, you have got to quit with these cookies. But she just gets in this mood, let it get cold, and cookies or bread and then the worst part is she don't even eat it. I mean, she'll make this bomb stuff and she don't even eat it. So anyway, want to thank Chef Snow. Remember, he's got some ballin' coffee over there, a lot of cool spices. But hey, also this segment brought to you by the TexasBoys.com. They got that food forest in a box, and they got a lot of other cool things over there at the website. Get 5% off with promo code PERMA. Remember, TexasBoys.com, and they're really awesome guys over there, and you should go check them out. They also have a YouTube channel that, I mean, it's cold blooded what they do, man. They get up to 99,999, and then mysteriously they bump them back. It's just, I
No,
wish we played on a.
losing subscribers. It's worse than that. Their subscribers get like wiped off the face of the map.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of that stuff seems to happen right now, or you'll get unsubscribed and nobody seems to know the reasons why. All right. So we'll go straight to the Q&A. Let's say here, I'm going to try to manage all this, and folks that are in the chat, I'll try to get to you here, but it's kind of crazy. All right. So, yeah, Richard sent me, he was telling me about these chemtrails, and I know I can't show them to you, y'all, but he said something about these things. Instead of just going out there and then they kind of fan out and, make the sky smoky blue green, whatever the case may be. He said they were going black. He sent me pictures of them, and sure enough, these are chemtrails that ended up turning black. And I don't even know what to say on stuff like that. So, son, you been seeing any black chemtrails down there?
No, but I wish I got a time lapse of this one. We woke up, and in Texas, unlike North Carolina, where there's mountains and stuff, you forget how far you can see, like how big the sky actually is. But you could see, there was one morning I woke up, walked out, and it was like big, bright blue sky, like clear blue sky. And then the chemtrails came, and then the chemtrails stayed in place. I don't even know how you do that, but they stay in place in the air and then just dissipate and spread out into clouds, not dissipate like a regular, jet stream would. It like spreads and multiplies into clouds like that. Yeah. Yeah. I was about to get a nerdy reference from Thor, but yeah, spreads out.
The whole thing is crazy. And like I said, folks want to know the truth about this and that, but they can't even look up and ask critical questions about what's being sprayed up there. No, it isn't a contrail. It is a chemtrail. There is a difference. So yeah, we just got for sure demonetized. All right. So
hey,
Alan,
Dad, I can help read the comments on YouTube. I've got it pulled up on my iPhone.
Yeah, go ahead and do that here in a second. So we got one from Alan. Love always hearing from Alan. Hope you're staying warm. Got a suggestion talking about the ESV Bible app. I'll have to go check that one out for sure. And yeah, I was also talking about the meditation and how you got to be careful with some of that stuff. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Alan. I'm being very, very cautious about that sort of thing, not getting mixed up with any transcendental stuff. It's no different for me than what I'm working on. I guess you could say I'm imagining the person I want to be while praying, if that makes sense. I know it sounds crazy, but essentially, but now instead of having somebody else lead me in whatever meditations I do, I put on some of that 444 hertz music without, words or anything like that. And then basically I'm working on myself. So yeah. And then he's also asking if we could sell some compost extract. See, the tricky thing with that, and the reason why I'm reluctant, and okay, so if I sell compost extract, yeah, if you live very close to me, it's going to work fine. But the microbes I have here ain't the same ones that are in Texas. So that's the problem with all these people that are saying they got this compost extract, compost, whatever, and it works fantastic. Yeah, it might in your area, but you go 3 hours away, it probably ain't, because those microorganisms are not the same. So just be mindful of the people making those claims. Son, you got anything to add to that?
No, I got the next question though, if you want that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Got one from Ika Mouse 01. Question. Have you considered referring to them as USDA Zone 600 watershed improvements to stay eligible for funding in an ag zoned area? Swale berm frowned upon by many legislatures. And I think they're talking about the 6,000 acres over in Oklahoma. The downside, and I kind of got like a heads up from Adam and his granddad, the downside of getting the government involved in any kind of way out there is that I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's specific to this area in Oklahoma or what, but they immediately start treating the property as if it's theirs, like the government and stuff like that. So I don't know, considering that his granddad deals with cash only, I don't know how much he's trying to get involved with the USDA and stuff like that. It and also like part of the issue is I'm brand new to his 6,000 acres, right? It's going to be very hard for me to tell him to try to do anything on his farm right now. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't go say, hey, why don't you apply for this USDA thing? Or, hey, why don't you go get the government involved? It might work. It's entirely possible. It's just getting him convinced along for the ride is the issue.
I think what they were getting at is like one of the methods Mark Shepard talks about is if you're ever looking for a loan or a grant or whatever, if you call it a swale, the answer is going to be no. If you can play semantics a little bit and call it something else, then the answer can be yes. But yeah, anytime you get mixed up with Uncle Sam, you're always, I mean, the problem is with a lot of the farmers around here, at least I'm talking about some of the local people, the local farmers in town. I've been to a few of their meetings, and like one will say, well, I can't afford to feed my chickens. I'm like, well, there's this thing called the chicken tractor on steroids. Guy says, I can't afford to feed my pigs. Well, there's this pig system we know how to do. Or, hey, I can't feed my sheep, can't feed my cows. And then I'm offering solutions to these people, but they don't want to hear them. The reason why is that not one of them in the meetings I was going to, not one could survive without grants. And I was floored when I found that out. So but you get on that, look, you get linked up with the government, and then this is what you got to do with the land. And all of a sudden you're going to find yourself in a bind. So it's crazy. Yeah. Somebody wanted to give a shout out to Chef Snow saying, hey, in that cheesecake Chef Snow talked about, he said he forgot the sugar. Should have been one cup of sugar. Yeah. Yeah, you probably want to add that in there. I'm sure it was oversight. Huh?
You just had cheese. You didn't have cheesecake.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I didn't go back and check, but yeah, they wanted Chef Snow to know, hey, there was no sugar in it, but it was a cup. I'm not quite sure what exactly they're getting at. And then speaking of recipes, yeah, so Joe sent me this thing about a shoe fly pie. Pretty simple pie to make, but you know, it's one that brings up very happy memories for me, from my kid, from being a kid. Was a shoe fly pie. Yeah, is it the best pie in the world? Maybe not, but it's mine. So so you know, it ain't for everybody, but it's what I grew up on, and I like my shoe fly pie. And I want to give a shout out once again to Kentucky Sustainable Living. Man, his wife hooked me up with a couple of shoe flies. Yeah. And you know, sad to say that they no longer exist. Well, happy to say, rather.
Speaking of Kentucky Sustainable Living, are you doing his and Shelly's festival in March?
I'm just trying to work everything out right now, man. I'm just trying to get through tomorrow.
All right.
I
got one from Amy B. Question for William. Are you considering remote consultations like Eric Sider does? Yes, I will do phone consultations and stuff like that. There's just going to have to be like the proper amount of information sent beforehand, so I can try to do it as best as I can. Because a lot of questions can't be answered unless I'm somewhat intimate with your property and stuff like that. I have to understand what I'm dealing with, what the limitations are and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want one, email me at thepermacultureconsultant@gmail.com or protonmail.me.
Peter, he says he's a disabled veteran, and he saw that one of the shorts I did recently with Grumpy and Darren from Hacks for the Homesteader, and made a short out of it a little while ago, and we were talking about security for property. Well, it did him good, he said, to see 3 veterans on there from different branches talking about all this stuff, and basically trying to say everybody should put a little bit, not a little bit, but put a lot, especially right now. Look, you got a homestead, you got all these things going on, but you got to be thinking about how to protect it. I mean, William's talking to you right now. We got crackheads, granted, we haven't been there for a while, but some crackheads roll in there and they vandalize the place and steal a bunch of stuff. Okay, well, yeah, they're stealing compost toilets. So these are probably nominees for America's Dumbest Criminals. So, I mean, what? Yeah, how do you move? Hey, bro, I got a composting toilet I want to sell you. They probably didn't even know what it was, dude. They're probably bobbing for apples in that thing. But there ain't no telling. I mean, when you get down to brass tacks with a lot of this stuff, you got to be thinking about your security, folks. I mean, do not, it's cool to grow food, but what good is it if it's not protected? So be thinking about that edge of things because it should already be baked in. What do you got?
Got one from Magic and Pasta. Are you sure the microgreens mold aren't actually the root hairs? Just wondering, as they are often mistaken for mold.
No, this was definitely mold. Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt it was mold. And here's how we know. I mean, well, number one, it was like on the top. But after a single night of getting them the adequate air they needed, it went away. That's the cool thing. Look, y'all, this is the beauty of permaculture is that you don't have to know every specific thing about whatever. In general, if I understand that, look, if I create aerobic conditions, facultative organisms and pathogens cannot live in that environment. They cannot live there. So if I can add, if I have any question about whether or not it's mold, if it were root hairs, they would still be there. But this is definitely is mold. I'm sorry, I went a little sideways on your question when there because everybody seems to think that we need to have a specialist for every little thing. You don't necessarily need to do that. You just need to know the relationships.
You just need to know systems. You don't need to be like some master gardener or anything like that. You just need to know how the soil food web works and stuff. And then you're better than any master gardener. You're going to have a higher yield and a higher success rate than any master gardener.
Well, that's why I was able to hit you flat footed and say, look, okay, we got, what looks like this. And then you're going to immediately know, number one, when it's small strands and stuff like that, it's usually going to be something that you don't want. Now, if they're big strands that look like veins, the bigger it is, what is it? 3 microns, micrometers?
1.5 is the minimum. 2 micrometers is the minimum for fungi, for beneficial fungi.
But if I see it real tiny, real fuzzy, chances are it ain't good. So,
but it also, if you can see it, that's like, was it thousands and thousands of hyphae strands, fungal hyphae strands. So that's even better.
Right. But if it comes out looking like a cotton ball, you got to start wondering about. The thing is, if you can keep things aerobic, then generally a lot of your problems go away. So, it even works that way in the human body. It really does. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the idea with deep breathing and some of the other things is to keep you as aerobic as possible. All right. So, let's see here. Oh, yeah. We got one from Strider 47. Oh my goodness. I think I'm kind of losing it here because I got
one if you need one.
Well, no, Strider basically dropped a resource. It was regarding that interview I did yesterday with Nathan. And folks, if you haven't heard it, you don't want the kids around because basically this guy is a survivor of a lot of satanic ritual abuse and things like that. And he didn't even go near as deep as he could have. But anyway, Strider sent this resource, and there's other ones out there too, where you're teaching your kids early on about the dangers of things like pornography or how these can be used as segues into some of these very filthy people getting a hold of your kids. Look, right now is the summer solstice. Okay. Let me be as frank as I can possibly be. I'm sorry, the winter solstice. Let me be as frank as I can possibly be right now. This is one of those high days in where some of these very seedy, nasty people are out looking for your children. And better still, this is where a lot of bad things happen to the children that they've captured. I'm not trying to go dark here, y'all, but what good is any of this? If me talking about it right now saves just one kid, then it's all worth it. Okay. So that's why I'm not going to hijack the whole show talking about it, but I have to have you aware of it. And there's a reason why there is no way on earth that interview could ever air on YouTube. So if you want to check it out, go check it out on all the podcast platforms. And I got a part 2 coming out next week with him. And then hopefully at some point we'll actually get into permaculture. It's all my fault, but I just feel this heavy compulsion to get everybody squared away on the things they can be doing to help their kids, or to watch out for kids in the neighborhood, or to see the telltale signs that might exist that some bad things are going down.
Well, chances are you probably encounter somebody every day that's involved in it somehow. If you think about it, you're probably encountering, whether it's like on a personal level or just like dude working at the gas station type thing, not blaming gas station attendees or anything like that, but you probably interact with somebody, every day at least.
Yeah, chances are. But, he spent this last one talking about how many of them, and some of the things we talked about privately, believe it or not, how many of these people are infiltrated in a lot of churches.
Yeah.
It is astonishing just how many of these people are infiltrated in there. And there's some of the people that you would at least expect. Not saying that you ought to be, just paranoid about things, but there's a reason why we say stay alert, stay alive. What else you got?
I've got some comments in Hebrew, so they're going to have to stay in Hebrew because I don't understand that. But one of the Debbie S says, can you return anaerobic soil to health? Absolutely. Yeah. You want to take this, Dad?
Go ahead and tell them.
So the first thing you need to do is figure out how compacted your soil is. It also depends on the location and stuff like that. If you're dealing with anaerobic soil in your raised beds, that's a different approach than if you're dealing with anaerobic soil in your pasture. But the first thing you want to do is break up below the compaction layer if need be. And then you want to start making compost like crazy, making teas and extracts out of that compost, and then applying it to your soil. You can just stop any negative acts on your soil, and it'll eventually get to the correct fungal to bacteria ratio. But that's going to take, nature will fix itself. It's just outside of human lifespans. So it's going to take years and years and years if you go that route. But the biggest thing you can do 100% is to stop tilling and just add carbon to the soil. That's the easiest, most passive thing you can do, is stop tilling, add carbon to the soil, or stop compacting and add carbon to the soil.
Only thing I'd add to that, even if you're running animals out there, people are saying, well, yeah, when people take animals and they leave them, like Greg Judy talks about the Columbus method, they put them out and then they find them later on. They don't even know what's up. They just know that they don't move them. They don't do anything. Yeah, they're going to compact that soil like nothing you've ever seen, but you'd be shocked at the recovery you can make. In fact, it's one of the videos I'm thinking about doing, coming up around here, is one of the methods you can do. Let's say you got some bad parts of your pasture. Well, 9 times out of 10, trust me, if there's high compaction, it's anaerobic in most cases, okay? And you can literally put down, like William said, you can roll out a bunch of hay. This is Greg Judy 101. Roll out a bunch of hay, put some animals on it, let them eat on it, trample on it, poop on it, leave it alone. And then it will improve just by adding that carbon to the soil. Give it time. Don't overgraze. That's one of the biggest problems I see, is that people aren't rotating their animals, or if they are, it's not a sufficient rotation. They're not giving it ground anywhere near enough time that it needs to really recover. So,
or they just rotate every 6 months or something like that, or never. Some never rotate. Especially on these larger cattle farms.
Yeah, it's crazy. So William says, how can you help clay soil drain?
Are you asking me that? Or
yeah, I was just throwing that question at you.
Hear you.
Yeah, it says, how can you help clay soil drain?
The same exact process. You don't need to add any kind of those. What a lot of people say, add gypsum or something like that. You don't need to add any. What was that?
You just
don't need to add anything like that. Yeah, you just need to get your soil biology in your clay in your soil, and then they will form aggregates, which are just tiny little, like a crumb structure. They'll create a crumb structure in your soil, and that will properly manage the water. It can either absorb the water when it needs to, or it can wick the water when it needs to. But there's no depth limit that you can do with this. I mean, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper the longer you do this thing correctly.
The phenomenon is called flocculation. It sounds like a bad word, but it's really not. I mean, you basically have these clay particles that sit very flat on top of one another. And then when you add the right life to the soil, it will take that clay and create an expanse to where it can hold water. And there's a phenomenon, like if you build swales and stuff in clay soil, you'll find out for the longest time, it seems like, oh my goodness, man, all this, it's not soaking in. It just stays there forever and a day. Give it time, put some carbon in that hole, and then watch what happens. That clay will flocculate, and all of a sudden you're dispersing. And what you say is very clay soil. Yeah, you just need to add a little bit of carbon to the soil a lot of times. I mean, it can be done. And the beautiful thing about it is like that quote that Eric Sider has on one of his shirts from Bill Mollison. Problems become more and more complex, but the solutions are amazingly simple. Really are.
Yeah.
Really that simple.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for checking us out tonight, son. Hey, man, give my grandbaby a kiss, and we love you.
I love you too.
All right, y'all. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Until next time, stay alert.
Stay alive.
Individual, just a carbon copy. True spitting that manicotti. Yeah, I'm talking saucy. All they wanna build is a prison world full of pet Tamagotchis. Like a kamikaze, got me out of body like I'm Goku SS3. They wanna push me to the center like a cell. They wanna spin up at the center of the nexus. Me. They want me to bow down, but I'm a warrior.